Have you seen it out there?
Gonna be a dick about it?
Yes, actually, a private dick.
Nothing disappeared. But investigate it. Investigate. Are we going to talk about the fact that her friend turned into some kind?
What the hell is going on now?
Once it starts, it gets worse fast. Who's ringing, Sheriff?
Silverman. Were you really going to sit there?
Look at me. Wrong. Can't you see that the spider's busy?
What if Spider Man became a dark detective fighting crime in the shadows of 1930s New York? Packed with mystery, action, and shocking twists, Spider-Noir Season 1 brings a completely different side of the Spider Man universe. Welcome to Kako Film, where we break down every movie and series with reviews, hidden facts, and everything you need to know. Spider Noir is an American neo noir superhero television series created by Oren Uziel for MGMus and Prime Video. The series is based on the Marvel Comics character Spider Man Noir. It tells the story of an older private detective and masked superhero living in New York City during the 1930s. As he investigates dangerous crimes, he is also forced to face the painful memories and mistakes from his past. Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot serve as the show's creators and showrunners, while the series is produced by Sony Pictures Television together with Amazon MGM Studios. The story takes place in an alternate universe within Sony's Spider Man universe, SSU. Nicolas Cage stars as Ben Riley, also known as the Spider, marking his first leading role in a television series. The cast also includes Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, Karen Rodriguez, Abraham Papula, Jack Houston, and Brendan Gleeson, who all play important roles throughout the story. The project was first announced in February 2023 when reports revealed that Oren Uziel was developing a live action series based on Spider Man Noir. Later in December 2023, Steve Lightfoot joined the project as co-showrunner to help shape the series and oversee its production. In May 2024, Nicolas Cage was officially confirmed as the lead actor. This announcement excited many fans because Cage had previously voiced Spider-Man Noir in the animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. At the same time, the series officially received a full season order and was originally given the title Noir. A few months later, in July 2024, the title was changed to Spider Noir to better reflect the main character and the connection to Marvel's famous superhero. Filming began in August 2024 in Los Angeles, California. The production Production continued for several months, with the cast and crew working on recreating the dark atmosphere of 1930s New York City. Filming was completed in March 2025. Spider-Noir was released in the United States on May 25th, 2026 through MJGM Plus. All 8 episodes became available on the same day, allowing viewers to watch the entire first season at once. The series was presented in full color for its original American release 2 days later on May 27, 2026. The series was released worldwide on Prime Video. International viewers were given a unique choice as they could watch the show either in full color or in a special black and white version. The black and white presentation was designed to match the classic film noir style and create the feeling of watching an old detective movie from the 1930s. After its release, Spider Noir received positive reviews from both critics and audiences. Many praised the show's dark atmosphere, stylish cinematography, engaging mystery, and faithful noir storytelling. Nicolas Cage's performance was especially praised, with many critics calling it one of the strongest performances of his career. His portrayal of the older, troubled hero brought emotion, depth, and intensity to the character, making Spider Noir one of the most talked about superhero series of 2026. Ben Riley is an aging private investigator living in New York City during the 1930s. His life has become difficult, and he struggles to make a living while carrying the painful memories of his past. Years ago, he was known as the Spider, the city's only masked superhero who fought dangerous re-return, who fought protected innocent people. After leaving that life behind, Ben tries to live quietly as a detective. However, the memories of his time as the spider continue to haunt him, and he cannot completely escape the choices he made or the people he lost along the way. Everything changes when Ben is given a mysterious and highly dangerous case, unlike anything he has faced before. As he uncovers dark secrets and powerful enemies, he realizes that solving the case will be impossible as an ordinary detective. To protect the city once again, Ben is forced to wear the mask he left behind many years ago. He becomes the spider once more, using his courage, experience, and incredible abilities to fight crime. But returning to his old life means facing old enemies, painful memories, and difficult decisions that could change his future forever. Nicolas Cage as Ben Riley, the Spider. The iconic lead Nicolas Cage's casting as Ben Riley marks a significant milestone in both his career and the Marvel television landscape. This represents Cage's first lead role in a television series, making it a landmark project for the veteran actor. Cage's involvement with the Spider Noir character is not entirely new, as he previously provided the voice for the character in the Oscar winning animated feature Spider Man. Into the Spider Verse, which introduced audiences to this noir influenced version of the web slinging hero. The transition from voice acting to live action lead demonstrates the character's established appeal and Cage's demonstrated capability to embody this specific interpretation of Spider Man. Ben Reilly is characterized as a down on his luck private investigator operating in 1930s New York City. Unlike the optimistic, youthful Peter Parker variants that dominate Spider Man media, this version of the character is older, weathered, and scarred by personal tragedy. The character has stepped away from his former life as the Spider, the city's only superhero, following a deeply personal loss that drives much of his character arc throughout the series. Cage brings to the role a natural gravitas and world weary sensibility that perfectly aligns up with the noir aesthetic that defines the show. Cage's extensive filmography includes work in both dramatic and action heavy properties, making him ideally suited for a character who must balance quiet introspection with explosive action sequences. His previous Marvel experience as Johnny Blaze in the Ghost Rider films demonstrates his familiarity with comic book material, while his acclaimed dramatic work in films such as Face Off and The Family Man, establishes his ability to convey complex emotional depth. The National Treasure films, beloved by millennial audiences, showcase his capacity to carry an ensemble narrative while maintaining charismatic screen presence, all essential qualities for anchoring an 8-episode limited series. Lamorne Morris as Robbie Robertson. The trusted confidant Lamorne Morris was cast as Robbie Robertson, Ben Riley's closest friend, and a crucial character who represents the emotional grounding element in the narrative. Morris gained significant recognition for his role as Winston Bishop on the television series New Girl, a character that demonstrated his natural comedic timing and capacity for both humor and genuine emotional vulnerability. His recent acclaimed work in the fifth season of the FX crime anthology series Fargo, where he portrayed State Trooper Whitley Whitfar, earned him a nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a limited or anthology series or movie, signaling his expanded range in dramatic work. In Spider-Noir, Robbie Robertson functions as a freelance journalist, attempting to navigate the treacherous landscape of 1930s New York journalism, where opportunities do not come easily. His friendship with Ben Riley provides the emotional core that connects the protagonist to his human relationships, making Robbie essential to understanding Ben's motivations and the personal stakes of his journey. Morris discussed his excitement about joining the project, expressing that it had long been on his bucket list to play a character in a world that is not necessarily real, opposite actors who are veteran OGs that can teach you a thing or two. He emphasized his desire to be part of a project that combines comic book material, live action storytelling, and acting alongside acclaimed performers like Nicolas Cage and Brendan Gleeson. Lee Jun Lee as Cat Hardy, the mysterious femme fatale Lee Jun Lee, was cast in the role of Cat Hardy, a femme fatale nightclub singer at the premier establishment in New York. Her character immediately plants the seeds of intrigue and conspiracy that propel much of the narrative forward. Lee Jun Lee has been experiencing significant professional momentum, recently appearing in Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's Oscar winning film Sinners, where she portrayed Grace Chow. Her previous television work includes recurring roles in prestigious series such as Damages, The Following, Blind Spot, Quantico, Chicago PD, and Sex Life, demonstrating consistent professional engagement across multiple high profile projects. Kat Hardy represents the classic noir archetype of the mysterious woman whose true intentions remain ambiguous throughout the narrative. She is the catalyst that brings Ben Reilly back into the dangerous world he has attempted to leave behind, hiring him for what appears to be straightforward investigative work that spirals into something far more complex. Lee Jun Lee's casting brings sophistication and depth to this character, ensuring that Cat Hardy functions not merely as a plot device, but as a fully realized character with her own agency and motivations within the story's ecosystem. Brendan Gleeson as Silvermane. The menacing antagonist Brendan Gleeson was cast as Silvermane, one of the primary antagonists operating within the Spider-Noir narrative. Sifta, Silvermane is described as a dangerous philosopher with a distinctive drone eye view of things, suggesting an intellectual approach to villainy that transcends simple criminal motivations. Gleason brings substantial dramatic weight to any project he joins, having demonstrated his range across films like The Banshees of Inisherin in Bruges and numerous other acclaimed productions. His ability to portray morally complex characters with philosophical underpinnings makes him ideally suited for this interpretation of Silvermane. The character of Silvermane operates as more than a simple antagonist. Rather, he functions as an ideological opponent to Spider Noir, representing a particular worldview and approach to power that contrasts sharply with Ben Riley's values and methods. Gleason's casting ensures that the conflict between protagonist and antagonist carries dramatic weight and philosophical dimension beyond mere action heavy confrontations. Jack Houston as Flint Marco Sandman. The complex villain Jack Houston was cast as Flint Marco, this world's interpretation of Sandman, one of Spider Man's traditional comic book adversaries. Houston brings to the role his experience in both dramatic and action oriented television and film projects. The character of Flint Marco in Spider-Noir is specifically described as being linked to a grounded story, suggesting that this version of the classic villain has been adapted and reimagined to fit the noir aesthetic and realistic setting of the series. Marco operates as both a villain and a client within the Spider Noir narrative structure. When Cat Hardy hires Ben Riley to investigate a missing person, rewritten, that missing person turns out to be connected to Sandman, creating a complex entanglement of motivations and secrets that drive the central conflict. Houston's presence as this character demonstrates the series' commitment to adapting Spider Man's existing rogues gallery in ways that maintain thematic coherence with the noir genre while preserving recognizable elements for comic savvy audiences. Abraham Papula as Tombstone Lonnie Lincoln. The transformed antagonist Abraham Papula was cast in the role of Tombstone, specifically identified as Lonnie Lincoln in this universe. Popula's casting brings representation and adds another layer of complexity to the ensemble. Tombstone, traditionally a Spider Man antagonist, has been reimagined in Spider-Noir to work within the narrative's grounded sensibility. The character is specifically described as having a version that links the classic character to a grounded story, indicating that extensive work went into adapting the Noir setting while maintaining recognizable elements that comics readers would appreciate. Karen Rodriguez as Janet. The supportive presents Karen Rodriguez was cast as Janet Ben Riley's secretary. Janet functions as an important supporting character who provides both practical assistance and comic relief within the narrative. The character serves as Ben's connection to his daily life as a private investigator, grounding the narrative in the mundane world of noir detective work. Rodriguez's role, though potentially smaller in scope than the primary leads, contributes essential character dynamics and provides opportunities for both humor and surprising emotional depth as the series progresses. Andrew Lewis Caldwell as Dirk Layden Megawatt. The supercharged presence Andrew Lewis Caldwell was cast as Dirk Layden, also known as Megawatt, a character with electrical powers that are showcased throughout the series. Previously known for his work in Bosch and Star Trek productions, Caldwell's casting brings experience with both character driven drama and science fiction elements. The character of Megawatt represents one of the super able beings that populate the Spider Noir universe, existing alongside more grounded human antagonists and heroes, supporting and guest cast. Building the 1930s New York world, the extensive supporting and guest cast serves to populate the noir world of 1930s New York with diverse characters and perspectives. Lucas Haas, an actor with significant film experience, including Inception, was cast in a role that specifically involves working for Brendan Gleeson's Silvermane character. Cameron Britton, known for his work in television dramas, makes an appearance in the series. Randy Oglesby appears as Chief McNamara, a law enforcement figure who intersects with Spider Noir's activities. Additional cast members, including Michael Kostroff, Scott MacArthur, Joe Massingill, Whitney Rice, and Amanda Skull, contribute to the texture and depth of the noir world. Kerry Christopher, Lucas Haas, and other guest stars flesh out the various locations and situations that Ben Riley encounters throughout his investigation. Richard Robichaud appears as Walters, adding another layer to the web of characters and connections, just runners, and creative direction. Shaping the ensemble's vision, the casting ensemble was assembled under the creative direction of showrunners Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot, both of whom serve as executive producers. Uziel, known for his work on 22 Jump Street, brings a sensibility that balances entertainment value with character depth. Lightfoot, previously the showrunner for Marvel's The Punisher and the series Shantaram, brings substantial experience with serialized storytelling and complex character dynamics. Their combined vision for Spider-Noir shaped the types of performers sought and the specific character interpretations desired. Strategic casting decisions, age, experience, and genre credibility. The casting of Spider Noir reflects deliberate strategic choices designed to establish credibility within both the Marvel universe and the noir genre. Nicolas Cage's age and seasoned approach bring gravitas to a protagonist who is explicitly characterized as aging and weathered. Later, it was rewritten. The inclusion of established dramatic actors like Brendan Gleeson and Lamorne Morris ensures that the production maintains serious dramatic credibility even as it operates within the superhero genre. The balance between recognizable character actors and rising talent creates an ensemble capable of supporting both intimate character moments and larger action sequences. The series was released in its entirety on May 25th, 2026 on MGM Mass in the United States and Amazon Prime Video internationally, consisting of 8 episodes with individual runtimes ranging from 42 to 49 minutes. The casting ensemble executed filming in Los Angeles from August 2024 through March 2025, working under the direction of multiple directors, including Harry Bradbeer, Nzinga Stewart, Alethea Jones, and Greg Yetines. This directing team ensured visual consistency while allowing for varied directorial perspectives across the 8 episode arc. The ensemble casting of Spider Noir represents a thoughtful assembly of established character actors, rising talents, and genre savvy performers united by a shared commitment to bringing this specific interpretation of Spider Man to life. From Nicolas Cage's weathered portrayal of Ben Riley to Lamorne Morris's emotionally grounded Robbie Robertson and the various antagonistic forces embodied by Brendan Gleeson, Jack Huston, and Abraham Popula, each casting choice contributes to establishing a world that honors both Marvel's comic book legacy and the sophisticated sensibilities of classic noir cinema development. Origins of a Noir Vision, the genesis of Spider Noir as a live action television series, emerged from Sony Pictures Television's broader strategic vision to expand the Spider Man universe beyond cinema. In March 2019, Sony Pictures Entertainment chairman Tony Vinciquerra announced that the company's shared universe of Spider Man related properties, known as Sony Spider Man Universe (SSU), would be expanding into television with a set of Marvel Comics projects developed by Sony Pictures Television. The studio was essentially conducting internal auditions with characters from a library of 900 that it could access, strategizing which mediums would best suit different characters. The trajectory became more concrete following the success of Spider Man. Into the Spider Verse in 2018. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the creative minds behind the animated film, signed their production company, Lord Miller Productions, to an overall deal with Sony Pictures Television in April 2019. This deal aimed to develop multiple television series for the studio, including Marvel based series that could potentially feature characters from Into the Spider Verse as well as live action properties. Select projects would be produced in conjunction with Amy Pascal, a frequent producer of the Spider Man films, with the intention for Lord and Miller to effectively reboot the Spider Man property for television. By September 2020, Sony was in active talks with Prime Video for the latter to serve as the streaming distributor for Sony's comprehensive suite of Marvel based television series. This partnership would provide substantial resources and distribution power for ambitious television adaptations. In February 2023, the specific announcement of a Spider-Man Noir television series came to fruition. Sony Pictures Television revealed it was developing a live action television series based on the Spider Man Noir character for both MGM Plus and Prime Video via Amazon MGM Studios. This version of the character was explicitly positioned as being from a different universe than the one seen in the Spider Verse animated films, marking it as its own distinct interpretation. Oren Uziel, a close friend of Lord and Miller, who was himself a devoted fan of film noir, was writing the series and developing it alongside his producing partners. Uziel's passion for the noir genre and his trusted relationship with Lord and Miller made him the ideal creative force to shepherd the project. Christopher Miller emphasized that Uziel had a perfect take on approaching the series, suggesting that the showrunner had crafted a vision that balanced the noir aesthetic with Marvel's superhero elements in a compelling way. In December 2023, Amazon hired Steve Lightfoot, who had previously served as showrunner of the Marvel television series The Punisher from 2017 to 2019. Lightfoot's experience with Marvel television content and his demonstrated ability to develop complex, morally nuanced narratives made him a valuable addition to the creative team. Both Uziel and Lightfoot are credited as the series developers alongside Lord Miller and Pascal, establishing them as co showrunners responsible for the overall creative direction. Later, it was rewritten. Production and at its May 20 green light, Amazon announced at its May 2000 that the series had been officially ordered to series. The project was initially titled simply Noir, with Harry Bradbeer signing on as an executive producer and director of the first two episodes. Bradbeer, known for his work on acclaimed television series like Fleabag and Killing Eve, brought a distinguished directorial pedigree to the project. His sensibility for character driven storytelling and stylized visual presentation made him ideally suited to establish the tone and aesthetic for the series' opening installments. Nzinga Stewart served as another director on the series, contributing additional directorial perspectives beyond Bradbeer's opening episodes. The production team expanded to include additional executive producers Aditya Sood and Dan Shear from Lord Miller, as well as star Nicolas Cage and Pavlina Hatupis, reflecting the magnitude of the project and the involvement of key creative stakeholders. In July 2024, the series was retitled The Spider-Noir to better highlight its connections to the Spider-Man universe and clarify its place within the larger Marvel cosmos. At this same juncture, it was revealed that the series would consist of eight 45-minute long episodes, establishing it as a substantial prestige television project with substantial runtime and narrative scope. The production budget for Spider-Noir was reported to be $400 million, representing a substantial investment by Amazon MGM Studios. However, this budget created friction within the production ecosystem. In August 2024, Leslie Goldberg at Puck reported that Sony was not expected to renew its overall deal with Lord and Miller after the duo disagreed with the studio on the series budget. By the end of 2024, Sony was reported to no longer be developing further films for its franchise at that time and was instead focusing on other projects such as Spider Noir, effectively signaling a strategic shift in how the studio was allocating resources. Casting process and ensemble assemblage Nicolas Cage's casting as Ben Riley Dartot Spider was announced in May 2024 as the series received its formal green light. Cage had previously voiced the character in Spider Man Into the Spider Verse, making the transition from voice performance to live action lead a natural evolution. This marks KG's first starring role in a television series, representing a significant milestone in his career and signaling Amazon's commitment to securing major talent for the project. Throughout 2024, the supporting cast was gradually assembled. In July, several actors joined the ensemble, including Lamorne Morris as Robbie Robert Gleason, Brendan Gleeson in an initially undisclosed villain role, Lee Jun Lee as Cat Hardy, and Abram Popula in an undisclosed role. By September, Gleason's casting was formally confirmed, with Jack Houston and Karen Rodriguez joining as series regulars as Flint, Marco Sandman, and Janet, respectively. That same month, a substantial number of recurring cast members were announced, including Lucas Haas, Cameron Britton, Kerry Christopher, Michael Kostroff, Scott MacArthur, Joe Massingill, Whitney Rice, and Amanda School in undisclosed roles. November, the script Ember 2024 saw Andrew Louis Caldwell joining the cast to recur in the series, with Amy Aquino and Andrew Robinson following in February 2025. Kai Castor joined for a guest role in March 2025 that was connected to another character in the series. The costume design for the series was handled by Tracy Field, who had previously designed the Prowler supersuit worn by Donald Glover in the live action sequence featured in the animated film Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. Warren Allen Young served as production designer, bringing his experience from the Marvel television series Runaways 2017-2019 to the project. Principal photography and filming challenges. Principal photography began in August 2024 in Los Angeles, utilizing the working title Old Fashioned as a security measure to maintain production privacy. Darren Tiernan served as cinematographer, while Peter Deming contributed to the cinematography as well. The production made the distinctive choice to use black and white cameras and filters during filming to authentically capture the aesthetic of early 1930s noir films, incorporating visual elements such as long shadows that characterize the genre. By October 2024, Brendan Gleeson had begun filming scenes and the production was well underway. However, the January 2025 Southern California wildfires presented an unexpected disruption, temporarily suspending filming. The wildfires affected various productions throughout Los Angeles, and Spider-Noir was among those forced to pause work. Filming resumed after the fires were brought under control, though the original schedule had to be adjusted. The production had initially been scheduled to conclude by February 2025, but extended through mid March 2025 due to the wildfire related shutdown. Despite these challenges, the production successfully captured all necessary footage within Los Angeles, demonstrating the efficiency and resilience of the crew despite external obstacles. The creative decision to film using black and white cameras was integral to the project's artistic vision. Director James Wan and showrunner Oren Uziel were committed to creating authentic visual language reminiscent of classic noir cinema. The use of specialized cameras allowed the cinematographers to capture the full tonal range necessary for both the monochromatic and color versions of the series that would ultimately be released. Post production and technical achievements. Post production on Spider Noir was a technically complex undertaking, particularly given the dual format release strategy. Tirsa Hackshaw, Eric Kisak, and Jennifer Barbot served as the series editors, bringing their expertise in assembling and refining narrative content. Hackshaw previously worked with Lightfoot on The Punisher, establishing a continuity of creative collaboration. The most distinctive aspect of Spider-Noir's post-production involved creating two distinct versions of the series simultaneously. A black and white version marketed as authentic black and white, and a fully colored version marketed as true hue full color. To achieve this ambitious dual format release, On set footage was captured digitally and then split and processed separately for each version. The team coined the term true hue to describe their approach to colorization, drawing inspiration from Technicolor's rich, saturated aesthetic. Nicolas Cage described the true hue color version as looking super saturated, reflecting an intentional artistic choice to enhance and intensify colors rather than attempt photorealistic accuracy. Showrunner Oren Uziel noted that the colored version was approached as if the black and white film had been colorized, maintaining visual coherence while adding chromatic dimension. Cage made an interesting artistic comparison, likening the style of the color version to the 1942 painting Nighthawks by Edward Hopper, capturing the moody, atmospheric quality of the work through color gradation and composition. The comparison speaks to the visual ambitions of the production, seeking to achieve fine art quality in its colorization process. Anthony Breznican at Esquire magazine observed that each version resulted in different emotional vibes for the series. The color version veered more toward the light-hearted comic strip crime capers of Dick Tracy, with its vibrant, somewhat exaggerated palette. Conversely, the black and white version conjured the sinister moral abyss characteristic of Raymond Chandler's noir novels, with their exploration of moral ambiguity and psychological complexity. This divergence demonstrated how color choice fundamentally altered the tonal experience of the narrative. Music and sonic identity. The series' musical composition was handled by Chris Bowers and Michael Dean Parsons, both of whom were revealed in February 2026 to be composing the series' score. Their work would establish the sonic foundation for the noir atmosphere permeating the narrative. The series' lead single, Saving Grace, was released on May 7, 2026, from Milan Records. Written by Oak Felder and Sebastian Cole and performed by Kirby, the song served as the opening theme for the series. The composition captured the melancholic, introspective quality essential to the noir aesthetic while remaining accessible and memorable. A comprehensive soundtrack album, including Bowers and Parsons' original score, was released on May 27, 2026, providing the complete sonic palette of the series for audiences interested in exploring the instrumental and thematic material beyond the episodes themselves. The soundtrack's this release reflected the production's recognitions that the musical elements were integral to the series' artistic vision and audience experience. Marketing and promotional strategy. Amazon's promotional strategy for Spider-Noir methodically planned and executed. During Amazon's upfronts presentation in May 2025, a promotional first look picture of Nicolas Cage in costume as Spider-Man Noir was unveiled. Jordan Moreau of Variety described the costume as iconic, noting its stylistic similarity to the version worn by the character in the animated Spider-Verse films. Rosie Cordero at Deadline Hollywood described the teaser as moody, capturing the dark atmospheric tone that defines the series. The first full trailer was released on February 12, 2026, in both black and white and color formats. The trailer featured the tagline, "With no power comes no responsibility." A clever and cheeky riff on the iconic phrase, "With great power comes great responsibility," that is synonymous with Spider Man and his philosophy. This wordplay captured the central thematic tension of the series, an older, burned out superhero grappling with the question of whether heroism still matters when one has lost everything. In late April 2026, Marvel Comics announced a tie in comic book, Spider-Noir Cassette 1, in collaboration with Sony Pictures Television and Amazon MGM Studios, that would serve as a prelude to the series. Written by Mark Guggenheim from a story by Jay Martin, with art by Stefano Raffaelli and cover art by Mike Hawthorne, the comic was made available at various Spider Noir related activations and events leading up to the series premiere, such as CCXP Mexico. The comic was released in both black and white and color versions, maintaining visual consistency with the series' dual format strategy, with a colored version being colored by Larry Molinar. Alamo Drafthouse Cinema created a curated 4-week film series called Web of Shadows, films that inspired Spider-Noir, featuring classic noir films including In a Lonely Place, 1950. Sweet Smell of Success, 1957, The Third Man, 1949, and Kiss Me Deadly, 1955. This educational initiative connected contemporary audiences to the historical cinematic traditions that influenced Spider Noir's aesthetic and thematic foundations. The first two episodes were screened at select Alamo Drafthouse theaters on May 25th, 2026, with stars Lamorne Morris and Jack Huston participating in post-screening Q&A sessions at Alamo Drafthouse Los Angeles location, creating experiential marketing opportunities that deepened audience engagement with the material. Release strategy and format options. Spider Noir was released in its entirety on MGM Plus on May 25th, 2026 in the United States as a binge release. This early access to the platform's linear channel provided a competitive advantage and generated immediate momentum. The series then rolled out globally on Prime Video on May 27, 2026, expanding its reach to international audiences. The dual release across platforms reflected the partnership between Amazon MGM Studios and Prime Video, ensuring maximum distributions and accessibility for viewers across different regions and subscription preferences. The staggered 2-day release between MGMS and Prime Video created a strategic window for initial viewership and discourse before the broader global rollout. The series consisted of 8 episodes with individual runtimes ranging from 42 to 49 minutes, providing substantial narrative content with each installment. The variable runtime allowed for organic narrative pacing rather than forcing stories into standardized episode lengths. The series released in both black and white and fully colored true who full color formats represented an innovative approach to television presentation. Nicolas Cage had expressed hope that the dual release would inspire audiences to become interested in early black and white noir films and develop an appreciation for them as an art form. This educational dimension to the release strategy reflected the production's commitment to honoring the cinematic traditions that inspired the series. The series had this premiere at the Regal Times Square in New York City on May 13, 2026, and later it was rewritten, providing an exclusive premiere event that generated press coverage and industry attention before the broader public release. Reception and critical reception for Spider Noir was substantially positive. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 92% of 88 critics' reviews are positive, and average ratings of 7.55/10. The website's critical consensus reads Nicolas Cage delivers a gloriously pulpy performance that makes every quip and thwip crackle in Spider Noir a dazzling stylish blend of hard-boiled storytelling and pure comic book verve. This critical consensus highlighted Cage's central contribution to the series' success. Critics praised his commitment to the character, his willingness to embrace the pulpy comic book aesthetic while grounding the performance in noir sensibility and his ability to balance humor with genuine dramatic weight. The description of his performance as gloriously pulpy suggests that critics appreciated the series' self aware embrace of both comic book and noir conventions rather than an attempt at seamless tonal blending. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average system, assigned the series a score of 72 out of 100 based on 26 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. This slightly lower compared to the Rotten Tomatoes score, suggests that while critics were generally positive, There was somewhat more critical division regarding specific elements of the execution. The series has a polarized reception regarding which version viewers should prioritize for optimal viewing. Both the authentic black and white and true hue full color versions have their merits and champions. Some viewers and critics prefer the stark visual clarity and atmospheric authenticity of the black and white version, which emphasizes the series' connection to classic noir cinema and the era depicted in the narrative. Others argue that the true hue color version provides additional dimension and enriches the visual storytelling, drawing comparisons to films like Dick Tracy that use color expressionistically rather than realistically. This divergence in preference demonstrated that the dual format strategy successfully achieved its goal of offering audiences genuine alternative viewing experiences rather than one version serving as the definitive presentation. The fact that critical and audience discourse around which version is superior became a topic of genuine debate speaks to the effectiveness of the creative approach. Box office and streaming performance. While Spider-Noir was released exclusively on streaming platforms rather than in theatrical cinemas, the series' performance on MGM Mass and Prime Video was initially strong. The May 25, 2026 release on MGM Mass generated immediate viewership, and the subsequent May 27 global rollout on Prime Video expanded the potential audience substantially. Specific the script and viewership numbers and performance metrics for streaming releases are typically kept confidential by platforms, and later it was rewritten, with companies rarely releasing comprehensive data about streaming success beyond occasional strategic announcements. The series' success was inferred from several factors. Amazon's continued investment in Spider Man related content, discussions of potential second seasons by showrunner Oren Uziel in April 2026, and the sustained critical acclaim and audience engagement throughout the release period. The buzz generated by the pre written and the extensive press coverage suggested that Spider Noir had achieved the primary objective of a platform investment, driving subscriber engagement and retention for MGM Mass and Prime Video. The decision to release the series simultaneously across MGM's and Prime Video represented a strategic choice to maximize reach and prevent audience fragmentation across competing platforms. For viewers, the script and dual platform availability meant flexibility in how and where they could access the content. Critical analysis of creative achievements. The critical consensus regarding Spider Noir emphasized several specific creative achievements. Nicolas Cage's performance received particular praise for his ability to inhabit the character of Ben Riley. Or Spider with a distinctive physicality and vocal delivery that captured the world weary yet determined nature of an aging superhero confronting his past. Critics noted that Cage's approach, which he himself described as 70% Humphrey Bogart and 30% Bugs Bunny, created a distinctive screen presence that alternated between genuine dramatic vulnerability and comic book irreverence. The series' visual aesthetic, achieved through the combination of noir inspired cinematography and the innovative dual format release, received widespread appreciation. The decision to shoot with black and white cameras and subsequently create the true hue color version represented a genuine technical and artistic achievement, allowing the production to honor noir traditions while providing contemporary visual accessibility. The supporting cast, particularly Brendan Gleeson as the philosophical villain Silvermane and Lee Jun Lee as the femme fatale Cat Hardy, received commendation for bringing depth and complexity to their roles. The ensemble structure allowed the series to explore multiple perspectives and narrative threads, enriching the overall storytelling beyond the protagonist's individual journey. The script, developed by Orange Uziel and Steve Lightfoot with contributions from writers including Christopher Chen, Megan Liao, Tori Sampson, Jennifer Frazin, Jack Henderson, and Bruce Marshall Romans, was praised for balancing noir conventions with comic book sensibilities. The story of Ben Riley as a down on his luck private investigator forced to reckon with his past as a superhero resonated with audiences as a fresh take on Spider Man mythology that acknowledged the psychological toll of heroism. Future prospects in April 2026. Before the series premiere, showrunner Oren Uziel expressed excitement about potentially exploring World War II as a setting for a possible second season. Uziel noted that centering the series around a private detective provided narrative flexibility, suggesting that all it takes is a knock on the office door and a new client walks in. He expressed confidence, and later it was rewritten, that whether set in New York or a different setting entirely, the private detective format provided an excellent jumping off point to expand your story. This forward looking perspective suggested that the creative team was thinking strategically about long term possibilities for the franchise should a second season be greenlit. The critical and commercial reception of Spider Noir positioned it as a potential flagship series for Amazon MGM Studios' Marvel television expansion. The investment in the project, the quality of the execution, and the positive critical response suggested that further development of the Spider Noir universe was a realistic possibility pending formal renewal decisions from Amazon. Conclusion: Spider Noir represents a significant achievement in translating comic book source material into prestige television. From its development as part of Sony's Spider Man Universe television expansion through its production in Los Angeles, its innovative dual format release strategy, and its ultimate critical reception, the series demonstrated a commitment to artistic vision and creative ambition. Nicolas Cage's career first television lead role, the innovative dual black and white and color release, and the noir inspired visual aesthetic collectively established Spider Noir as a distinctive entry in superhero television. The positive critical reception suggests that the series successfully balanced Marvel's expansive universe with noir genre conventions, yet it returned creating something that on top of traditions while charting its own creative path. Nearly 30 years after he was supposed to play Superman in a Tim Burton directed feature about the Man of Steel, and 3 years after he cameoed as the character in The Flash, Nicolas Cage finally gets his long overdue extended superhero spotlight. Assuming you and I both forget Ghost Rider in Amazon's Spider Noir, the resulting series, which doubles as Cage's most substantial television work to date, is a disappointment, or more specifically, an inconsistent disappointment because over its 8 episode first season, the door is left open for more adventures, but it lacks a cliffhanger to force the issue. One can easily imagine entertaining 100-minute movie yearning to be chiseled out, air dated Monday, May 25, MGM Plus, and Wednesday, May 27th, Amazon Cast. Nicolas Cage, Lamorne Morris, Legends Lee, Karen Rodriguez, Abraham Popula, Jack Huston, Brendan Gleeson, creator Oren Uziel, Spider Noir has a great cast and some very good performances, especially Cage in the second half of the season when he's finally allowed to start being fully weird. Plus, the black and white cinematography from Daran Tiernan and Peter Dimming is worthy of notice. And as will be discussed later, debate. But any 8 episode series in which one could easily skip 3 or 4 episodes entirely. Episodes 2 through 4, if you're curious, isn't telling its story optimally. Developed for TV by Oren Uziel, the story of Spider Noir is frustratingly dull, cribbing the barest of bones from various vintage gumshoe dramas. The series is much more spider boiled than Spider Noir, if we're being totally honest, and adding precious little despite the obvious deviations that come from having a Sam Spade capable of shooting spider goo from his veins. Cage plays Ben Riley, a gumshoe struggling to remain afloat in New York City in the Great Depression. Haunted by his experiences in the First World War, do not attempt the math to figure out how old the series thinks Nicolas Cage is. And by the death of his beloved Ruby, Ben isn't even making enough to pay his devoted assistant, Janet Karen Rodriguez. Because of something that happened to him during the war, Ben has your typical Spider Man powers. Prior to Ruby's death, he'd been locally beloved as the vigilante hero, the Spider. But Ben put aside his fedora and his trench coat. The Spider's not hugely distinctive costume, and now his spidey sense mostly tingles when somebody is about to knock at the door, making him about as special as a ring security system. One seemingly thankless gig leads Ben to a brief interaction with a young man who has unlikely powers of his own. Another thankless gig leads Ben to Cat Hardy. Lee Jun Lee, a nightclub singer with ties to Brendan Gleeson's Silver May, developed the script and vicious mobster engaged in an increasingly heated conflict with the city's mayor, Michael Kostroff. Soon Janet and Ben's journalist bestie Robbie Lamorne Morris are enmeshed in escalating drama involving Silvermane's mysterious right hand, Flint Marco, Jack Huston, and a superpower conspiracy so twisty, but not really, that it may require the return of the spider. At some point, reflecting on the mayor, Ben observes, I still don't know if he's a Republican or a Democrat. On one hand, Ben is cynically referring to the way that corruption can often trump ideology when it comes to politics. On the other hand, the statement is emblematic of the uninteresting vagueness of Spider-Noir's world building. As fans of Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, the two properties are not narratively connected. Amazon wants me to emphasize, can already guess, Spider-Noir exists in an alternate universe, but fans looking for a contemplative approach to this unique version of early 20th century Manhattan can skip the series entirely. The number of times watching Spider that I thought, that that's an interesting idea and approach about something other than Cage was literally zero. What does it mean in this period and this universe for the series to have a black journalist as a key character? Nothing. What does it mean in this period and this universe that the story has an Asian femme fatale? Nothing. The series doesn't even have the depth of one of the puddles that pop up frequently because puddles look great in black and white, and rain is a great excuse to have as many characters as possible wearing trench coats and fedoras. This would be as good a place as any to discuss the cinematography, which Amazon is offering to viewers in either authentic black and white or true hue full color. This is, at the very least, irritating. Either the series cinematographers and directors Harry Bradbeer, Nzinga Stewart, Alithea Jones, and Greg Yetines conceived of, framed and optimized the show in black and white as an homage to the noir or hard boiled films it's emulating, or they didn't. If they did, it makes no sense to think that swapping to digitally augmented color and a look with no evident inspirations or antecedents would make any aesthetic or thematic sense. And if they didn't, it makes no sense to think that just grayscaling the image would count as an homage. Or, put a different way, any cinematography optimized simultaneously for both color and black and white hasn't really been optimized for anything. I watched the 8 episodes in black and white because that was where the series' visual style felt purposeful. From the dark and shadow filled alleys to the way cigarette smoke wafts around characters to the impeccable coronas of light around Cat when she takes the stage. The series' overall look is very derivative, not just when it is directly aping the Maltese Falcon or the Lady from Shanghai, but especially in the action sequences and several flashbacks and hallucinations in the later episodes, it's mostly pretty and occasionally striking. I watched the pilot plus a few later selected sequences in color and later versions overall and found the tutorial to generally confusing and actively ugly in showcasing special effects. Though Morris Robbie has a burnt umber suit in the pilot that came across far better in color than monochrome. That suit, incidentally, offered the only indication I could see that the show was shot to accentuate or acknowledge both looks. Watch the series in black and white. The opening credit sequence, set to Kirby's endearingly 007 esque saving grace, color free regardless. After the cinematography, the most polarizing aspect of Spider Noir is likely to be Cage, who sleeps through the first half of the series for reasons that are probably justifiably character based. After scattering his trademark eccentricities sparingly to that point, the fifth episode is when Cage starts to go full Nicolas Cage, and it becomes possible to understand why his interpretation, subtly to that point and then very overtly, was a blending of Humphrey Bogart. Later, it was James Cagney and Edward G. Robinson. The arachnid aspects of the character begin to bleed through into his physicality, and what Cage is doing suddenly borders on modern dance. A drunken fight scene in the seventh episode is like pure uncut Nicolas Cage. And as much as I know some viewers will probably hate that transition, default the script. It's a shot of bizarre adrenaline to an otherwise meandering and lackadaisical show. In the sleepier portions, Morris and Rodriguez are left to deliver straight shooting energy, and Janet and Robbie become the show's most likable characters. At the same time, neither character gives the impression of existing at all when they aren't dealing with spider-based problems. Janet wants to feed her off-screen family. Robbie wants a job. Silverman wants power, but nothing he does is worthy of an actor as good as Gleason, whose craggy, while the script visage was made for the black and white version of the show. This show and Gleason both deserve more than a role lifted from a generic Irish gangster template. The thinness of the writing limits several crucial actors. Lee is magnificently photographed throughout and is as alluring as the part demands. But Kat has no evident personality, nor does Flint, leaving Houston playing emotionally tortured but with no meaningful underpinnings. Houston played effectively the same character in Boardwalk Empire, only he was tremendous there, and here he is not. The bigger supporting performances end up being the most memorable, be it the commanding presence Abraham Popula brings to his looming Lonnie Lincoln or something more aggressively irritating like Andrew Louis Caldwell's very theatrical Dirk Lydon. The odd and outlandish performances in Spider Noir offer a reminder that this is a comic book series and it ought to be fun. Periodically, Spider Noir is indeed a hoot. It's too bad you have to wade through to so much nondescript storytelling to get there. Spider Noir, a new superhero series led by Nicolas Cage. The show has its roots in 2018's Spider Man Into the Spider Verse, in which Cage voiced the spider variant type known as Spider Man Noir. Appearing in black and white and always accompanied by a rain scented wind, Spider Man Noir managed to steal scenes in a film already overflowing with goodness. A large part of that comes down to the casting of Cage. Later, it was rewritten, who commits wholeheartedly to Spider Man Noir's over the top slangy dialogue. You gonna fight or you just bumping gums, you hard boiled turtle slapper? That Cage's work is much meant adds an extra layer of hilarity to the role, a wink to the audience that yes, the film got the Nicolas Cage to channel old timey film detectives, as much of a scene stealer as he is. Spider Man Noir is only on screen for about 5.5 minutes of Into the Spider Verse. With Spider Noir, Cage gets to take this Spider Man variant to new heights in a technically dazzling thrill ride. Sure, it's familiar, it's a Spider Man story, and we've seen plenty of those. But Spider Noir manages to find a new lease on Spidey life with its loving embrace of film noir. What's Spider Noir about? The superhero we meet in Spider Noir is not the same one from Into the Spider Verse. Cage plays Ben Riley, a down on his luck private investigator who once moonlighted as New York City's only hero, the Spider. Like the Spider Verse films, Spider-Noir knows we've seen enough Spider-Man origin stories to fill hundreds of comic books, so it wisely motors through the beats we're familiar with. In the first of the show's many stylish rewritten, in the offerless scenes from Ben's life on windows of a New York City skyscraper he's climbed, catching us up to speed on all things Spider. That includes him meeting, then losing the love of his life, Ruby. Following her death, Ben hung up his mask and goggles for good. However, later it was rewritten just because Ben's retired the spider doesn't mean he won't wind up trapped in dangerous webs of others' making. And Spider Noir presents a fascinating web indeed, one involving crime lord Silvermane Brendan Gleeson, lounge singer Cat Hardy, Legion Lee, and a rogues gallery of super-powered men, including well-known Spider-Man villains like Flint Marko, Jack Houston, aka Sandman, and Lonnie Lincoln, Abraham Popula, aka Tombstone Spider Noir is a gorgeous love letter to film noir. The way these threads converge isn't necessarily groundbreaking. Obviously, bend the script and later it was rewritten. Ben will put on the mask and seek it's worth it. And obviously, the origins of these superpowered villains have ties to Ben's own genetic mutation. But the show's carefully calibrated style manages to make each familiar plot point feel like a new discovery. Recent superhero shows have tried to set themselves apart by dabbling in genres beyond just superhero. That's how you get gangster dramas like The Penguin or a legal comedy like She Hulk, Attorney at Law. But not since WandaVision has a show so thoroughly immersed itself in a different genre. Unlike WandaVision, Spider Noir holds fast to its genre trappings throughout, and that steadfastness elevates it over every other superhero show's genre dabbling. The visuals are the key here. Starting with the show's unique presentation, Prime Video offers viewers the choice of watching in both black and white and color. While I recommend checking out the color version at least once to take in all the details on the show's costumes and set pieces, black and white is certainly the way to go here. Spider Noir thrives in the contrast between light and dark, casting bold, inky shadows across city streets in pointed tribute to the film noir genre that inspired it. In a world where so many TV shows are underlit or visually flat, it's a joy to see a series take full advantage of lighting as a key way to build mood and atmosphere. Elsewhere, Spider Noir has a ball with stylistic staples of the film noir genre, from Dutch angles to a moody score, courtesy of Chris Bowers and Michael Dean Parsons. Don't think of Spider Noir as being focused on style over substance, though. It's more style as substance as the series engages seriously with film noir's thematic tropes. Ben is a classic world-weary anti-hero, while Lee's enigmatic cat falls squarely into the femme fatale archetype, going from crooner to double crosser at the drop of a fedora. Nicolas Cage was meant for Spider Noir. Film noir and 30s era films in general are key to Spider Noir because they're key to Ben as well. As he reveals to Cat in the wake of his mutation, he was overcome with arachnid instincts. He had to go to the movies to relearn how to be human from the actors. That gives Cage free rein to channel film noir's leading men, and he does it with gusto. In Ben's scenes with his closest confidants, like his secretary Janet, Karen Rodriguez, or his reporter friend Robbie Lamorne Morris, he carries himself more naturally with a tinge of grumpiness. Once he's out in the field, though, he dials up the hard boiled detective to a solid 11. He slings quips like their webs, alternating between charming and brooding his way out of danger. Ben's bag of tricks also includes disguising himself. He poses as everything from a plumber to a doctor in his efforts to crack his case, and Cage embraces a new outlandish persona in each role. Viewers may be tempted to add these moments to their Nicolas Cage losing his shit style compilations. But these moments, on top of being extra fun, do remain motivated by the needs of the show. Rarely does Spider-Noir unleash a cage crash out for meme's sake. Although the show does play up the meminess a little bit, like when Morris unleashes a surprisingly solid cage impression in the perfect context. Cage's dedication to a role as strange as film noir detective Spider Man especially shines through when Ben succumbs to his spider instincts. His physicality is both mesmerizing and bizarre, whether he is contorting himself in strange ways or just lying twitching on his bed. While his voice acting in Into the Spider Verse is delightful, it's moments like this where you see Cage embodying Ben's uncanny physical experience that made me truly understand why show this exists. Between Cage's performance and distinct styling, Spider Noir proves that there's still ways to freshen up superhero shows. The key is just commitment. Belen Edwards is an entertainment reporter at Mashable. She covers movies and TV with a focus on fantasy and science fiction adaptations, animation, and more nerdy goodness. She is a member of the Critics' Choice Association and the Television Critics Association, as well as a Tomatometer approved critic. Spider Noir on Prime Video is a new series starring Nicolas Cage in the lead role. And yes, this is based on a Marvel character. It's essentially a story about a private investigator who's actually a superhero in 1930s New York. Ideal for fans of classic noir thrillers. Read our Spider Noir series review here. Spider Noir is a Prime Video series from Sony Pictures Television, but it is still based on a Marvel comic. Nicolas Cage stars in the title role as a private investigator, Ben Riley, who is terrible with finances but has a brilliant secretary, Janet Karen Rodriguez, to take care of business. Without her, he would be truly lost. We're getting 8 45-minute episodes for this first season. I've watched the first 3 episodes for this review. It was all I had time for prior to its release, and it is a charming and funny plot with lots of dark undertones. Full of classic villains and characters, perfect for New York in the 1930s. It should please many, but it isn't something I'm rushing to watch more of. The series looks gorgeous and has a nice vibe, but it also has way too many characters. I have too many other titles on my watch list to spend more time on this one. Continue reading our Spider Noir Season 1 review below. Start watching on Prime Video on May 27, 2026. The Spider has retired. Spider Noir is a 2026 live action Prime Video series based on the Marvel Comics Spider Man Noir. In this series, we get to know Ben Riley, Nicolas Cage, who is also the Spider or Spider Noir. His superhero days are initially behind him as he focuses on this private investigator business. Sadly for him, he is very much a down on his luck private investigator. Sure, he gets jobs in 1930s New York, but mostly catching cheating spouses in the act. And often he ends up doing pro bono work, which does not cover the bills, nor does it cover salary for his secretary, the fierce Janet Ruiz. Karen Rodriguez, who is the only one keeping the business afloat. While I do like Nicolas Cage as Spider Noir, it was Karen Rodriguez who stole every scene she was in. You may recognize Karen Rodriguez from Shining Girls or The Hunting Wives. Anyway, in season 1 of Spider Noir, we see Ben Riley trying to get back on his feet after a deeply personal tragedy. Despite his notion that his days of being the spider are behind him, the city needs a hero, and he is the city's one and only superhero. Amazing cast. Having a blast also in the cast of Spider Noir on Prime Video are a whole slew of amazing actors. With the story set in 1930s New York, there are so many iconic, almost stereotypical, but you can get away with much in a comic adaptation characters. Look out for the Emmy Award winning Lamorne Morris, Fargo, Night Shift, New Girl, Lee Jun Lee, Sinners, Babylon, Abraham Popula, Atlas, Slow Horses to SAG Award winning actor Jack Houston, Boardwalk Empire, Antebellum, and Emmy Award winning and Academy Award nominated actor Brendan Gleeson, The Banshees of Inisherin, Mr. Mercedes. The guest star cast also has amazing talent, including Lucas Haas, Midnight in the Switchgrass, Cameron Britton, Paradise, Mickey 17, Mindhunter, and Carrie Christopher Weapons, to name just a few. Choose your own Spider Noir adventure, sort of. With Spider Noir on Prime Video, you get to choose your own adventure. Or rather, you get to choose how you want to experience this latest Marvel character. You can choose between authentic black and white and true hue full color, which perfectly describes exactly what you get from each viewing experience. Either the authenticity of a story playing out in 1930s New York or a superhero adventure thriller in vibrant colors. Obviously, you can check out both options to see whether you prefer to watch the black and white or the color version. Personally, I am a sucker for the color version. I opted for this for the simple reason that the colors are gorgeous, vivid, and intensely vibrant. Something we don't get too much of these days. Of course, if you're a sucker for that old school noir feel, then surely you'll want to opt for the colorless version of this. Okay, I realize colorless makes it sound negative, but I don't mean it as such. I recognize that the absence of color allows for other details to shine. If you are also longing for that color saturated experience, then you have something amazing in store with Cape Fear on Apple TV. Just saying. Watch Spider Noir on Prime Video, now the new Marvel comic adapted series, produced by Sony Pictures Television exclusively for MGM Plus and Prime Video, was developed by Oren Uziel, the Cloverfield Paradox. Oren Uziel, Freaks of Nature, 22 Jump Street, and Steve Lightfoot, Marvel's The Punisher, Behind Her Eyes, Hannibal serve as co-showrunners and executive producers. Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot developed the series with the Academy Award winning team behind Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse, which defied should please many Marvel fans. This team includes Phil Lord, Christopher Hale, Miller, Cocaine Bear, and Amy Pascal Long Bright River. The Emmy Award winning director Harry Bradbeer, Fleabag Killing Eve, is the director and executive producer of the first two episodes. Also directing the 8 episodes in season 1 are Inzinga Stewart, The Burbs, Alethea Jones, Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, and Greg Yaitans, Presumed Innocent. The Spider-Noir series will air on MGM Plus linear channel on May 25, 2026. Before rolling out globally on Prime Video, Spider-Noir starts streaming worldwide on Prime Video on May 27, 2026. Watch trailer. Spider-Noir is a live-action series based on the Marvel comic Spider-Man Noir. Spider-Noir tells the story of Ben Riley, Nicolas Cage, a seasoned down on his luck private investigator in 1930s New York, who is forced to grapple with his past life following a deeply personal tragedy. As the city's one and only superhero creator, Oren Uziel directors. Harry Bradbeer, Nzinga Stewart, Alethea Jones, Greg Yaitans cast. Nicolas Cage, Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, Abraham Popula, Karen Rodriguez, Jack Huston, Brendan Gleeson, Lucas Haas, Cameron Britton, Katie Christopher, Michael Kostroff, Scott MacArthur, Joe Massingale, Whitney Rice, Amanda Skoll, Andrew Caldwell, Amy Aquino, Andrew Robinson, Kai Caster. Ben Riley's just trying to make an honest living. He's not looking to save the world or clean up New York. He just needs cash to pay his assistant and buy his next slug of whiskey. He's no hero. Not anymore. Not since his girl Ruby died because of him. And whatever made him special, he keeps it well hidden these days. Ruby once told me that with great power comes great responsibility, Ben recalls. Well, she was the greatest responsibility I ever had, and I felt her. But sometimes that great responsibility comes calling again, whether you like it or not, and it's calling for the spider. Trenches with some paint Spider-Man's Peter Parker and Miles Morales are nowhere to be found in this altered version of New York City. But the Big Apple is still as rotten as ever. A gangster called Silver Money has the city by the throat, and he's enlisted a host of superpowered individuals to help him close his grip. That begs for someone with arachnid based superpowers to come to the rescue. But I did it, it was rewritten, but Ben has no ear to spit new webs. Ben's more urgent concern is nightclub siren Cat Hardy, who walked into his office and offered Ben a job. Seems her bodyguard Flint Marco has gone missing. And while Ben and Flint have had their differences, Cat wants Ben to find him anyway. You're an investigator, Cat purrs, investigate. Ben would rather not. Everything in him, including his painful spidey sense, tells him to steer clear of Cat, of silver money, and of the whole sordid business. The more dangerous things get, the more he might need to return to his old web slinging ways. But Ben needs the money. And maybe deep down he needs to help. Maybe he can put his great powers to work for a great purpose one more time. Spider-Man Noir has been on the case in Marvel's comic books since 2009, though many might be first introduced into the character in 2018's delightful animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse was a plugged-in favorite, winning both PI's and our readers' vote for Best Movie for Teens during our Plugged-in Movie Awards. Nicolas Cage voiced the character in that Spider-Man movie, and one might had high hopes for the Prime Video series as he returns to fill Spidey's alt universe gumshoes. Alas, make no mistake, Spider-Noir has its merits. The series the sings you to water actors series to the series sings into depression era New York and leans of the 1940s and wafties. The grizzled private eye, the dirty streets, the shadowed corners you find at every turn. In a nice touch, Prime Video even gives you the option to watch the show in black and white. But while the monochrome noir movies of yesteryear were certainly edgy for their time, they still had to adhere to some broad suitability standards. Sex was merely hinted at. Violence was reliably bloodless. R rated profanity? No such thing, at least, not on the silver screen. Those flicks felt grittier than they actually were. Spider Noir abandons such standards and betrays the family audience first introduced to the character in Into the Spider Verse. Sexual wings and sides sully the script. Harsh language fills the television speakers. Most startlingly, Spider Noir is quite bloody, containing scenes of torture and even sexual assault. A man's throat is cut on camera in the very first episode, and blood gushes from the wound. With great power comes great responsibility, Spider Man says across a host of different universes. But that goes for TV shows too. Later, it was rewritten in Spider Noir, Prime Video update to superhero loving families. And from where we sit at Plugged In, that's incredibly disappointing, editor's note. Plugged In is rarely able to watch every episode of a given series for review. As such, there's always a chance that you might see a problem that we didn't. If you notice content that you feel should be included in our review, send us an email at letters@pluggedin.com or contact us via Facebook or Instagram. And be sure to let us know the episode number, IT, title, and season so that we can check it out. Episode reviews May 27, 2026, S1E1. Step into my office. It's been 5 years since Ben's girlfriend, Ruby, died. A death that would never happen had Ben not been moonlighting as a superhero named the Spider. Ben has left that alter ego behind, much to the chagrin of journalist Robbie Robertson and the rest of New York, and works as a private eye these days. Currently, he's working a couple of cases. First, Ben's been hired to track down a guy named Edison. Who's behind the hire and why? Ben doesn't know at first, but he quickly learns that Edison's no average Joe. He's got superpowers, developed the script, and later it was rewritten. And that makes him of interest to Silver Money, New York's most notorious gangster. But Ben must also follow singer Cat Hardy to a mysterious rendezvous too. The man paying Ben's fee claims to be Cat's husband, the stiff, though Ben doubts that's true. And when he discovers Cat in the same hotel room as the city's mayor, the investigator has even more reason to doubt. A man is tortured by Silver Money's goons. They believe they've beaten the blood covered victim to death until Silvermane runs a knife through the man's hand. The camera treats us to a close up, jarring him awake. The victim's throat is soon sliced open, and blood pours from the dying man's wound. Another person is shot to death. We see his body in the morgue, his bare chest riddled with bloodless bullet holes. Ben is knocked off a skyscraper, but he saves himself before hitting ground. A scuffle involving plenty of fisticuffs and a 2 by 4 lead to one of the combatants getting knocked unconscious. A character can set himself on fire and shoot flames. In flashback, we see how Ruby died chained inside a car and sunk in a body of water. A man tries to force a kiss on a woman. The woman resists and slaps him. The guy tries to punch the woman in retaliation, but he's prevented from doing so. Someone is knocked unconscious by a car door. In flashback, we see the spider fighting a number of bad guys using his fists, feet, and spider webs as many try to gun him down. Ben and his assistant Janet engage in a conversation that involves some ribald double entendres and slights for Janet's husband. Ben meets a married woman at a bar who suggestively tells him that her marital status has never stopped me from having a good time. Ben hands her a card and suggests to her that if her husband ever begins to suspect she's philandering, he should hire Ben to investigate. Kat wears a tight gown on stage. Ben smokes cigarettes, as do a number of other people here. Characters drink and make light of how much they do. When Janet tells Ben that she made coffee, he asks if she has anything stronger, then asks her to pour the liquor straight into his coffee cup. All smoke, shady dames, and black and white cinematography. Marvel's latest Spidey offering is fast, witty, and confident, as is increasingly wearingly. The idea fat the sea wasi seized wasims wasi butter part of butter the seamless kasuis to cheese blouted unseamvious New Zealand. Spider-Noir requires you to set aside some lore while retaining other bits. Thus, I should point out that the arachno-inflected human being brought to you here is played by Nicolas Cage, but is not the spider character that he played in 2018 Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse, although he sounds a lot alike. That one was called Peter Parker, as is traditional. This one's called Ben Riley. Why you would still cast one of the most divisively idiosyncratic performers in modern cinematic history, who can no more be dissociated from any of his previous parts by the average human brain than the concept of sourness can be uncoupled from a lemon, sweetness from honey, or Nigel Farage's face from that of a melting frogs is beyond me, but I guess that's Hollywood. As the title suggests, Spider Noir has been conceived as a homage to the hard boiled films and fictions of the 1940s. The whole thing was created in both black and white and full color so that viewers can choose in which form they want to watch it. I look forward to online wars breaking out over this issue, upon which I shall remain Switzerland. Except to say that the decision to create a color version of a noir homage was a craven one in the first place. Never give the people what they want. And the decision to watch such a version is worse anyway. The show is gloriously full of shadows and cigarette smoke, sassy secretaries and shady dames, as well as superheroes and supervillains. Riley was the superhero known as the Spider, apparently, rather than Spider Man, possibly for legal distinctive reasons, keeping New York safe from harm until 5 years ago when he failed to save the woman he loved from death. He hung up his mask, a strikingly woolly affair, because we are in the Depression era and Lycra is yet to be invented and is now more Sam Spade than Spider, eking out a living as a PI. When we first meet him, Riley has been hired by an unseen client to track down a man called Addison. When he does, Addison turns out to be capable of turning himself into a human torch and setting fire to everything in his path, but is not impervious to the bullets unloaded into his chest by another gumshoe, also hired by an unseen client to find him. What was so important about this guy and why is this client so unseen? Riley's metaphorical spidey sense is alerted, which is not to be confused with his actual spidey sense, which tingles whenever violence is about to be done to his person, although generally just a second too late to deprive the audience of another fight scene. One character, Flint Marco, Jack Hughes' bodyguard to Cat Hardy, Lee Jun Lee, the shadiest, dammiest of shady dames, appears to turn into sand. Yes, sand. A man made of sand, would you believe, when riled? Are the Spider and Addison not the only men in New York with hidden abilities? When Flint disappears, Cat hires Riley to find him, and so he is drawn further into a hammer web of intrigue and danger, which I've just realized makes the spider more like the fly, but let's just blow past that. At the center of it sits a gangster Silvermane, Brendan Gleeson, who has taken over the city in the past 5 years. He has the police and various politicians in his pocket, and the only recent cramp of his style has been someone's attempt to burn down his mansion. But who? But who? More clues, more characters, more hidden abilities, and more plot twists are served up. And if none is brilliantly innovative, the whole is fast enough and fun enough to get away with it. Everything is shot with style and confidence, while the script contains just enough sharp dialogue and witty banter, even if it does occasionally veer into screwball comedy territory when it occurs between men and women to keep it aligned with the templates of the past. And Cage fans, of course, will have Cage to keep them going too. Non Cage fans, High need not fear either. For us, he should always appear in shows as heavily stylized and as mannered as possible, so that what we cannot help but parse as dreadful affectation shows up less starkly and at its best begins to look credible. And he is ably assisted, his weaknesses disguised by great performances from Karen Rodriguez as a sassy secretary Janet, by Lamorne Morris as Riley's tenacious newfound buddy Robbie Robertson, and by Gleason as the scary villain, all the more so for reliance on terror rather than super strength. If it was a blonde, Spider-Noir might not quite succeed in making a bishop kick a hole in a stained glass window, but it would certainly have him thinking about it. Spider-Noir is on Prime Video. This article was amended on the 2nd of June 2026. An earlier version was mistaken to state that Spider-Noir was filmed in black and white and digitally colorized thereafter. Based on the Marvel Comics character Spider-Man Noir and adapted for television by Oren Uziel, Prime Video's latest superhero series, Spider-Noir follows an older web slinger living in New York City during the Great Depression. Fledgling private investigator Ben Riley, Nicolas Cage, in his first lead role on a television show, has long abandoned his superhuman alter ego, the Spider. However, when his past comes knocking, he is forced to confront it. Though beautifully shot in both color and black and white, the viewer chooses which one. Spider Noir is a lackluster, repetitive retelling of the same old vigilante tale audiences have seen time and time again. Spider Noir opens in New York City roughly 15 years after the end of World War One. Ben Riley reflects on his days as the Spider, when he slung around the set, keeping crime at bay and drinking in his spare time. As the Spider, he was thriving. He was even set to propose to the love of his life. Yet, he reflects that falling in love during this period was a fatal error on his part. And 5 years later, Ben has fully embraced his cynicism. The Spider is squarely in his review and his PI. Business is staying afloat by the sheer will of his no nonsense secretary, Janet Karen Rodriguez. Things take a turn after Ben and his business when he is hired to follow alluring nightclub singer Cat Hardy, Lee Jun Lee, and his investigation takes him in many unexpected directions. A photograph leads him to City Hall and to the desk of corrupt Mayor Alfred Morris, Michael Kostroff. Later, he winds up on the doorstep of notorious Irish mob boss Silvermane, Brendan Gleeson, whose reign at Reriton whose reign of terror in the city includes murders, illegal speakeasies, and a multitude of other criminal enterprises. Ben is unwavering in the face of political pressure and organized crime, but he doesn't expect to encounter other types of monstrosities. What he and his best friend, journalist Robbie Robertson Lamorne Morris, uncover is so shockingly dangerous that Ben is forced to take on the role of the spider once again. Spider-Noir is visually stunning, and the alternative versions are fun to watch. I switched back and forth between color and black and white after every episode. Yet the show fails to nail the decadence of true old Hollywood film noir. The series is beautifully detailed, with all the costuming and settings defining 1930s New York City, but it has a shiny 21st century sheen that doesn't let the story fully settle into the genre. Moreover, while Spider Noir features many noir tropes, including the cynical anti hero and the femme fatale, the narrative is so excruciatingly predictable that it strips the plot of any intensity or excitement. The illicit affair in the series even feels wooden and out of the blue because the characters at its center don't have any romantic chemistry. Beyond the setting, nothing truly differentiates Spider Noir from Tobey Maguire's, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland's run of Spider Man films. Nor does it offer anything distinct or fascinating to the superhero genre overall. In fact, by the end of episode 1, most viewers with any minor knowledge of US history will likely piece together the direction of the entire season. This isn't to say reimaginings of varied franchises can't be done. HBO's The Penguin sits squarely in the Batman universe while delivering a truly enthralling depiction of Gotham. It's later it was rewritten and a distinct version of a character and distinct version of a character has been portrayed times. Unfortunately, Spider Noir plays it far too safe. Though the series has a solid cast and some sparkling depictions of a bygone era, Spider Noir is all style and very little substance. At a time when audiences are already fatigued by the continual depictions of meta human supers who wrestle with whether to remain anonymous or use their powers for good, this story is hardly unique. Also, amid the saturation of PI dramas on TV, including RJ Decker, Tracker, and Poker Face, Spider Noir is easily lost in the shuffle. If viewers are to be subjected to yet another version of the wall crawler, it will need to be captivating and deeply emotional, which is why the Holland-led Spider-Man Brand New Day is so highly anticipated. Anything less is just monotonous. Spider Noir premieres on May 25 on MGM Plus and on May 27 on Prime Video. Spider Noir will be available to stream two ways, in authentic black and white and true hue full color. Spider Noir continues 20 to 26's wave of incredible superhero television with its incredibly unique take on Spider Man. Nicolas Cage was first given the chance to play Spider Man in Sony's Spider Man Into the Spider Verse. It was clear that Cage, just by his voice work alone, was the perfect choice for Spider Man Noir, bringing early 1930s energy the character was known for. Now, 8 years later, we get to see that same energy brought to our screens in a live action noir thriller. The series finds private detective Ben Reilly, Nicolas Cage, national treasure. 5 years after he quit being the Spider, thrust back into the role after mysterious men with powers keep popping up around New York City. The plot itself is nothing too far removed from any Spider Man tale. The spider who was once the city's protector is now gone, allowing for a mob boss, in this case Silvermane, Brendan Gleeson, the Banshees of Inisherin, to rise and fill the power vacuum. Spider Noir differentiates itself by delving into the noir genre. People talk with a transatlantic accent. The mayor is calling for an end to prohibition, and the spider wears a fedora everywhere he goes. Prime Prime Video released the show in both black and white and in true hue full color in order to keep that noir vibe while giving viewers who might not be so keen on watching black and white television show an option. The show was filmed in black and white and recolored after the fact, meaning that no matter which version you choose to watch, you are in for some beautiful cinematography. If you stick with the black and white, you are subject to some amazingly crafted shots that reminisce on the 40s style of noir films. If you pick the true hue version, you'll see colors that pop off the screen, making you ask yourself, why can't all Marvel projects look this way? A series is nothing without its characters, and Spider Noir makes sure to keep each one as compelling as the last. Cage as Ben Reilly captures all you can expect from a Spider-Man adaptation. He is quippy, he is charismatic, and he is fun to watch. All things you need if you are trying to create a successful Spider-Man. While there is some clashing between his jokey Spider Man half and the more serious mystery noir half, Cage sells the character, where you want him constantly to be on screen, whether behind the mask or not. The supporting cast all bring some charm into an otherwise run of the mill New York City. There's no Mary Jane Flash Thompson or Harry Osborn. Instead, Spider Noir gives us Felicia Hardy, Lee Jun Lee, Sinners, Robbie Robertson, Lamorne Morris, New Girl, and Janet Ruiz, Karen Rodriguez, The Hunting Wives. All help separate the series from other Spider Man media, giving it its unique identity. In the past, Robbie Robertson was relegated to a reporter in the Daily Bugle. In Spider Noir, he acts as Riley's right hand man, helping him solve the mystery surrounding Silvermane and his crooks. Villains are no stranger to Spider Man, except this time they are a bit more out there. Silverman acts as the show's big bad, with others working as his henchmen. Familiar faces like Sandman, Jack Hudson, Boardwalk Empire, Tombstone, Abraham Popula, Andor, and the lesser known Megawatt, Andrew Louis Cladwell, The Matrix. Resurrections help to build out some of the villains. While they all act as suitable antagonists, they end up becoming a bit one note. After each of them gets introduced, they slowly become just more fodder for the spider to take down. While their stories are compelling, they get overshadowed by the more interesting plot lines. The issues with Spider Noir end up having nothing to do with the show itself. Since Prime Video released the show all at once, allowing viewers to binge through, it leaves no time for the public to discuss and theorize. Numerous episodes end with cliffhangers. That Kudma's episode led to interesting theories on where the show may head or how the character would need to react. Instead, to discuss the show, viewers have to binge watch to not be at risk of any spoilers. The extra time in between episode releases could have allowed for some of the CGI to be cleaned up, in, including the web sling scenes and megawatts power. Spider Noir is one of the most unique live action pieces of Spider Man media that we've ever gotten, as they take a fun idea for a character and bring it to life. The mystery of the series, while not the most jaw dropping, is enticing and makes viewers want to immediately hit that next episode button. Spider War, with its creative, it was rewritten, and alternate versions of already existing characters makes you ask why studios haven't been producing more stories like this one. Most importantly, Spider Noir feels as if you are watching a comic book come to life. The shots look as though they've been taken off the page and dropped onto your screen. Since there is no waiting to get the final suit, the first script, and later it was rewritten, viewers get dropped right into the action, allowing for a modern noir, one filled with fight scenes and mystery, something that just isn't seen all that often nowadays. For Spider Man fans, Spider Noir is a treat that expands the mythos and gets us seeing more of the webhead on our screens. For comic fans, it's an exciting story that uses all of its characters and its style to create a self contained street level superhero show. And for television fans, it's a return to the noir genre. It's a return for the mixes itself within the modern superhero media landscape, allowing for a genre mixed show like no other. Spider Noir debuted domestically on MGM Mass on May 25 and then globally on Prime Video on May 27 as a binge release. While not a part of the MCU, Spider Noir is the most fun and best looking Marvel streaming series in years. The show cleverly reimagines some of Marvel Comics' most popular heroes and villains as Prohibition era gumshoes and gangsters squaring off in a New York City that until 1933 has only ever known one superpowered figure, the crime fighting vigilante called the Spider. But no one has seen the hide nor hair of the Spider, whose secret identity is prized by Ben Riley, Nicolas Cage, for 5 years when the show begins. The sudden, mysterious emergence of four superpowered criminals Flint Marco, aka Sandman, Jack Huston, Lonnie Licken, aka Tombstone, Abraham Popular, Dirk Lydon, aka Megawatt, Andrew Louis Caldwell, and fire wielding Jimmy Addison, Jack Michael prompts Ben to suit back up as the Spider. While Ben's sleuthing will reveal who these men are and how they got their powers, only the Spider can stop them from wreaking havoc on the Big Apple. Ben soon discovers the superpowered quartet are connected to the city's most powerful mob boss, Silvermane, Brendan Gleeson, playing an Irish version of an Italian character in the comics. He also becomes entangled with Cat Hardy, Lee Jun Lee, a sultry singer at Silvermane's nightclub. She's the show's riff on Marvel femme fatale Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat. The further Ben sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, the more trouble he gets into. And the more he's forced to wrestle with the inner demons he spent years stifling with booze. While the show boasts a solid, charming ensemble, its cages 70% Humphrey Bogart and 30% Bugs Bunny Ben Riley that anchors this quirky and highly entertaining jaunt through a sumptuously reimagined corner of the Spider Verse. Speaking of the Spider-Verse, those animated movies, Overlords, Phil Lord, and Christopher Miller are executive producers on Spider-Noir. It should also be noted that KG's character in those films was a Pet Parker variant and not Ben Riley. Spider-Noir offers Cage the chance to play everything from melodrama to slapstick to action hero fisticuffs to even body horror. The Oscar winner makes a meal out of every variety, and the joy he's clearly having proves infectious to the viewer as well. Ben's arc sees him struggling with powers he never asked for and a superhero mantle he never wanted. Once he did gain his powers, Ben claims he used them just for fun and not because he wanted to be some do gooder. It's clear, though, that Ben is a better and braver man than he's willing to admit. When a chance to lose his powers is presented, Ben is eager to accept it. With no power comes no responsibility, he says. Alas, New York City will always need some sort of Spider Man to protect it. Kaja receives great support across the board from co stars who find the humanity in their characters, all of whom are riffs on film noir archetypes. Gleason's pragmatic, brutal Silvermane, Lee's duplicitous yet vulnerable cat, and Houston and Popula's wounded, maybe not so bad after all henchmen. The actors playing Ben's allies also get their moments to shine. Lamorne Morris' dogged reporter Robbie Robertson finds himself often hilariously drawn into the action. Karen Rodriguez is the show's secret weapon as Ben's assistant and smart alecky voice of Reason Janet, and child actor Cashier of Yucks as street urchin hustler Frankie. Think of him as Spider Noir's version of Charlie Cosmo's kid in Dick Tracy. On a technical level, Spider Noir is a handsomely produced affair across the board, from its lived in period sets and costumes to the moody cinematography, all of which create a suitably glamorous yet corrupt film noir setting. The show's writing, overseen by showrunners and exec producers Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot, is sharp, funny, and even moving as we discover the tragedies behind the show's anti hero and supervillains. There's been no shortage of Spider Man over the past 3 decades, with four separate film series, and more than one of them have also included multiple versions of the same character from different universes. Unlike the on screen reunion of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, or the many iterations of the character seen in the Spider Verse animated films, The first live action Spider Man to grace television screens in years is focused on exactly one parallel version of the famous arachnid enhanced hero who lives in a very different world than the young web slinging Peter Parker audiences have come to know. Ben Riley Nicolas Cage is a disgruntled private investigator in 1930s New York whose caseload is hardly overflowing, and his struggling operation is supported only by his all too devoted secretary Janet, Karen Rodriguez, and his journalist friend Robbie Robertson, Lamorne Morris. After he is approached by Cat Hardy Lee Jun Lee with a case, Riley becomes entangled in the business dealings of mobster Silvermane, Brendan Gleeson, and considers putting on the mask that he has long since abandoned following a tragic loss. This series feels very much like an event in itself rather than just another installment of the ever expanding and incredibly popular Marvel Cinematic Universe. Its marketing stresses that it's available in two formats: authentic black and white and true hue full color, both of which look and feel very stylized. It's not trying to mimic any other modern day superhero movie, instead, skewing closer to classical detective dramas and film noir, where the good guys are fighting nefarious enemies and might have to go to drastic lengths to do so, potentially losing everything in the process. But unlike comparable fare like HBO's recent remake of Perry Mason, this one does feature superpower individuals in a dated setting reminiscent of Watchmen or the forthcoming prequel to The Boys, What Rising. It developed the script and later it to C. Cage, who has established a reputation as an action star who leans into the absurdity of his characters long after winning an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas back in 1995 on television since. Despite working regularly, he so rarely appears on the small screen. This role isn't nearly as showy as many of his other recent parts, but it still fits like a glove. And the fact that he moonlights as the spider also feels just right. It's cool to watch him spring into action, moving quickly and kicking ass, but not trying to show off too much or draw unneeded attention. He may have a familiar spidey sense, shoot webs out of his wrists, and wear a mask that looks like a classic colorless version of Spider Man, but it does feel like the spider is a distinct alter ego, and he spent considerably more time invested in his identity as the very human Ben Riley, while Spider Man has historically leaned a bit lighter than some of the other Marvel superheroes. It's a bit jarring to note that this show will compete at the Emmy Awards as a comedy. There are certainly funny moments, and the antics Cage has with Rodriguez and Morris do feature a good deal of comedic banter. But everything to do with Hardy and Silvermane feels deathly serious, a brooding mystery that definitely should be considered drama. Fortunately, the experience of watching an episode of this show, Vito, in whichever visual format viewers choose, is immersive and rewarding, taking time to embed itself in its period setting and focus on an authentic feel over swift moving plot developments. It's not always too riveting or in any rush to get to its next big scene, but its style and the commitment both of the actors and artisan makes it a unique and intriguing specimen well worth exploring. The highly anticipated live action debut of Spider-Noir has finally arrived, and the premiere episode leaves us with plenty to unpack before we dive into the full series analysis on the next episode of the podcast. If you were expecting a traditional web slinging Marvel spectacle, the script and later it was rewritten, you might not get adjust your expectations is a beautifully shot, stylized piece of hard boiled television that feels far more comfortable in a smoke filled room than a superhero crossover. Nicolas Cage is the ultimate pulp detective, unsurprisingly. The absolute best reason to tune in is Nicolas Cage. Playing a dry witted, hard boiled neo noir detective, Cage is a perfect match for this specific pulp universe. His trademark stilted dialogue and melodramatic delivery, which can sometimes feel out of place in standard Hollywood fare, work beautifully here. His performance frequently brings to mind Rick Blaine from Casablanca. This version of the character is a man who used to do the right thing, team, but a lost love has hardened him into a cynic who is willing to turn a blind eye to the rising tide of crime around him. Naturally, a new case forces his hand, setting him on a direct collision course with his old vigilante identity, the Spider, as he relearns the classic lesson that evil prevails when good men do nothing. Visually, the show is a triumph. The cinematography is gorgeous, and watching the black and white version is highly recommended to fully appreciate the moody, shadow drenched atmosphere Oren Uziel has constructed. The cast surrounding Cage is stellar and holds their own against his massive screen presence. Brendan Gleeson turns in a highly effective performance as the local mob boss. Gleeson commands the screen when he is in a scene, and he possesses the kind of gravitas where his character still feels incredibly dangerous, even when other people are just talking about him. Furthermore, Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, and Karen Rodriguez are fantastic additions to the ensemble. Even in short bursts throughout the premiere, they are incredibly engaging. They bring an immediate spark to the screen, and I absolutely cannot wait to see more of them as the mystery unfolds. Anwar, by any other name, the biggest surprise of the premiere is the overall tone. It frequently feels like Sony's answer to Joker, the script, and later it was rewritten, serving as a comic book adaptation name only. There is just enough web slinging and web shooting thrown in to keep traditional comic fans entertained, but it is incredibly obvious that the creative team really just wanted to tell a gritty detective story starring Nicolas Cage. Frankly, who can blame them? However, this creative choice brings us to the biggest gripe with the series, an issue that lingered even before the first episode aired. It is genuinely baffling why they decided to disconnect this character from established lore. Why not make him a multiversal Peter Parker like he is in almost every other iteration? Or better yet, why not tie him directly to the version of Spider-Noir we already know and love from the Spider-Verse animated films? Imagine if the first scene in Spider-Noir saw Cage as Parker, putting down a Rubik's Cube he got during his adventures with Miles. Connecting the two would have given any subsequent animated immense emotional weight because audiences would know exactly what he just went through in his live action dimension. The Verdicalas, a faithful comic adaptation, is obviously not the goal of this series. If you can handle a less than accurate take on a fringe Spidey comic, Spider Noir is absolutely worth a look. You do not necessarily need to run to your television to watch it this exact second. But if you have some free time and love classic detective stories, give it a chance. At the very least, it is clear that Cage and the rest of the stellar cast are having a total blast point 3.5 out of 5 stars. What did you think of the premiere? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for our full series breakdown on the next episode of the Major Issues podcast. Spider Noir, a new TV series starring Nicolas Cage, has received positive reviews for its visual aesthetic and Cage's performance as Ben Riley. But some critics have noted that it loses steam towards the finale. The first reviews for Nicolas Cage's Spider Noir series are here. The upcoming series takes a bold swing with the Spider Man mythos, and it seems to have paid off. What are Spider Noir reviews saying about the Nicolas Cage TV show? Spider Noir currently has an impressive 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from 29 reviews, with most critics praising its visual aesthetic and Cage's performance as Ben Riley. Some, however, point out that the show starts to lose steam in the run up to its finale. Empire's Alex Godfrey called its noir aesthetic having keen wit and a sharp bite, comparing Cage's Ben Riley to Humphrey Bogart over Peter Parker. Godfrey concluded the review by adding a big swing. Oh, yes, that pays off from start to finish. This is an irresistible concoction, an utterly insane stew that somehow makes perfect sense. It is a total joy. Slash Films' Bill Breyer said that the show feels less episodic and more like a long story stretched out into installments. But that's not a big negative, as the reviewer ultimately ended up liking the show. Spider-Noir is one of the most exciting and creatively fertile superhero works to be released in the last couple years. And while it may be a bit batty, I think it's the bee's knees, said Breer in their review. Collider's Aidan Kelly liked the show enough to recommend it. Kelly compared the show to an Ed Wood movie, which is largely due to its sci fi theming and comedic pulp undertones. The writer also noted that the show's delivery in both color and black and white is more than a marketing gimmick. However, the reviewer also docked points from the show for having underwhelming villains. His review blurb on Rotten Tomatoes reads, "It may not be for everyone, especially for hardcore comic fans expecting something much grittier, but it's also hard to deny that Spider Noir is just a heck of a lot of fun." While that sounds great, not all reviews are positive though. Variety's Aramid Tinubu called the series a beautiful bore, acknowledging its visual prowess. While the show nails its film noir inspirations, the same also makes it feel predictable. Tinubu wrote, Spider Noir is a lackluster, repetitive retelling of the same old vigilante tale audiences have seen time and time again. The Hollywood Reporter's Daniel Finberg also disliked the series, calling it an inconsistent disappointment. He also found the visual effects in the color version of the episodes to be generally confusing and actively ugly. Feinberg added that the story of Spider Noir is frustratingly dull, cribbing the barest of bones from various vintage gumshoe dramas and adding precious little. Spider Noir is produced by Sony Pictures Television exclusively for MGA Mus and Prime Video. Harry Bradbeer directed the first, Steve produced them. Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot serve as co-showrunners and executive producers. Uziel and Lightfoot developed the series with Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse's Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Amy Pascal's Spider-Noir premiered on MGM Plus on May 25th, 2026. It was script and will be released globally on Prime Video on May 27. It will be available to stream in both black and white and in color.